Thanks so much for joining us today on Feelin' Good, sponsored by Warren County Community Services. I'm your host, Shelley Abrams, and as you can see, we are not in the studio today. There are so many interesting things to see outside of the studio, and we are actually in Broadway Antiques, which is located on Broadway here in Lebanon, Ohio. And I have to tell you this, a couple of months ago, I had lunch with my college roommate and her husband, and my husband, Bob, and I decided that we would come down and do a little shopping after lunch. So we were meandering through Broadway Antiques, and suddenly I stopped at this lovely, very unique booth space where I met our guest today, Linda McClellan. And she was just setting up this beautiful booth. And as you can see, the name is Lindy's Antiques, Paintings, and Prints. So I'd like to introduce you to Linda, who is Lindy, correct?
Well, that's my nickname. As my grandmother used to call me Lindy. Okay. So, I can still remember hearing her calling through the house saying, Lindy, where are you?
Well, as you can hear, when I started talking with Lindy, I was just charmed by her accent, which then led to more and more discussion between how do you even set up something lovely like this? What's your journey? Give us a little background. And I thought this would be a good show for Feelin' Good, because I felt good after I chatted with her initially. So thanks for joining us today.
Well, I felt good meeting you too. So that was great.
Well, tell our audience a little bit. Where did you get your start in even being interested in this journey?
Well, I grew up in England, and I grew up predominantly with my grandparents, who had lived in India for a long time during my grandfather, I think, was in World War I and World War II. Mm-hmm. So I had these amazing people in my life who taught me a lot about history. Mm-hmm. My grandmother's grandmother had lived in Bath in England, and, very much grew up with, we didn't do that in our day. So very prim, very proper, beautiful things. Mm-hmm. And so also with people who had traveled around the world, seeing beautiful things and living, a very elegant life, and, tea in the garden, things like that. Mm-hmm. So I grew up with that, grew up in a 300-year-old farmhouse that my grandmother bought after, about a few years before I was born. So we had, this rich experience. And so when I came to America when I was 21, I sort of saw, a more average way of life, I guess. And a combination of, when people were rich, it was all new products. There wasn't anything beautiful and old. There weren't beautiful old paintings, and there weren't so many beautiful prints. And I got involved in custom picture framing from my aunt, who lives in Loveland. And she taught me that. And then once again, I started to see beautiful things coming in to be framed, and became an archivist, and really trying to protect people's beautiful pictures and paintings and prints. And so over the years, of course, I have acquired a lot of product. And I sold my business in February, and thought, well, now what will I do? I'm not going to just sit at home doing nothing. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, I just found myself saying out loud, I want to start an antique booth. And I thought, well, how am I going to do that? And a friend said, go to such and such a place over by Fairfield. And I went there, and it sort of looked a bit junky and, flea markety, I guess is the word.
Okay.
I sound like a terrible snob when I say that, and I am. And so then I thought, Lebanon has beautiful place. So I came here, I met with the folks, I shared with my idea, what I wanted to do. And within 3 weeks, I had the opportunity to do this. And so I had to game on, Unfortunately, I knew how to produce beautiful pictures. I had beautiful pictures. I had these lovely hand-colored prints and things. So I found frames to put them in. I used archival mats. I used conservation glass. So we take something that's old, still keep the old, but make sure that it's something that will last for generations to come.
So this isn't just, you didn't just happen to know about all these elements of art. You must have done some study.
Absolutely. I mean, I got to go to the greatest museums in London. Obviously here, there's a wonderful art museum. So every time I go back to England, I get to go to galleries. I look at the finest paintings. And unfortunately, I'm very lucky that I have friends who have really fine paintings when I go to their houses as well. And my last trip back to England, I actually acquired from my family my 10-time great-grandparents. So dating back to 1778, which is during the time of George Washington. And these wonderful, ridiculous people with their funny wigs on and everything. And so they're now hanging in my house. I restored them. And, I feel like I have a piece of Downton Abbey in my house. So I look at those shows which show the elegant English homes, and I've created a little bit of that in my home. And I wanted to create that for people to purchase products. That they can have that in their homes and they can have beautiful, unique things. Not the same old stuff that comes from a big box store. Something that's like a treasure, like, oh, where did you get that from? So.
And probably every item that you have here in this booth has a definite story.
Oh, absolutely. And everything I have in my own home has a story.
Right.
So I love to create stories. And that's what I always did when I was a custom picture framer. I would always be creating stories and keeping people's stories. So I call it my fiduciary duty to keep that heritage going. Because if we don't do that, then we won't have these beautiful things in the future. We'll just have, bits of old plastic.
Well, I was especially intrigued when it said designer, archivist, and dealer. Yeah. So, that's a very unique, title to have as part of this booth space. So it's so great to hear how you even got started doing this. And you're getting ready to go on a shopping trip, is that right?
That's right. I'm leaving on Monday to go to England for a month. And so I'm hoping to find some more true antique treasures. See, at my age, when they say anything older than 25 years old can come in here, I'm like, ouch, that makes me a real antique. So it's important to me to sell things that are much older than I am.
Right.
So I love having things from the 1880s. I've got things that go back to the 1850s. So the older the better, as far as I'm concerned. When people say they want an antique, I want it to be a true antique. They say 50 years in this country. In Britain, it's always been 100 years. But, so as I get older, 100 years becomes shorter.
Right. Well, no wonder when I stroll through this lovely antique Broadway's antiques shop, I see toys. I see different types of household items that remind me of my own childhood. So that would make sense. Older than 50, people would have those items here.
And I see a lot of the people who come in here, going through and saying, oh, I remember this. I remember my grandmother had this. I remember that. And you can see people wanting to reacquire the things that were close to them in their childhood.
Right.
And you almost like, well, why did you give it up? Or you had this opportunity to have this beautiful thing stay in the family. But maybe like this is a piece of silver. that needed cleaning and you didn't see its beauty. And because somebody said, oh, I can't be bothered to clean silver anymore. But to me, it's
it's gorgeous.
wonderful experience cleaning silver, because every time you do it, you connect to it, you touch it, you feel it, and you experience its beauty. So keeping, you know, even things that you have to dust and stuff, if it's something that's really pretty, you are experiencing it every time you interact with it, which, you know, if you're just sitting watching telly, you don't really get that. So, you know, so that having lovely things when the TV isn't on, you know, it's really nice to sometimes just sit and look at a picture and just say, oh, I really love that.
Right. Right.
You know, I lay in bed each morning. I have two beautiful drawings of two very beautiful women, and I just love looking at the artwork, the quality of the work, the beauty of it. That to me is really important, and it feeds one's soul in a way that, you know, James Bond moving across the screen at 20 miles an hour is not going to feed my soul.
Right. Well, let's take some time and look at some individual items, and maybe we'll look at things from a little different angle. So we'll be right back. So here we are looking at another beautiful corner of the booth, and it looks like there's a theme going on here. What's happening on this wall?
Well, I always love pictures of, you know, beautiful women, and I learnt a long time ago from one of my friends who has a gallery in London, and I asked him, you know, what is your bestseller? And he always said, it's beautiful women.
Oh.
And so even women like looking at beautiful women, men like looking at beautiful women. And there's a sort of serenity and a beauty in many of these pictures, which I love to capture and I'm trying to bring forth. So this piece here, I actually bought in England when I had no money, and it was in a crappy old frame, and so I bought it back, and I bought it back on one of my trips. I found it at my grandmother's house, sitting in a corner collecting dust. Bought it back and restored it and put it in I wanted it to still have a really old look. I didn't want to take that look away from it. In fact, actually, I found newspapers. My joke is, the old-fashioned archival framing was putting a couple of newspapers behind the picture.
Oh, okay.
So I found newspapers dating from 1905. So the piece is dated, I haven't got my glasses on, but I think it's, let's say 1917. So the newspapers were even older. Now, I didn't put the newspapers back in there, but they do have archival backing. So this piece really, with the archival backing, the conservation glass, it could easily last. If somebody purchased it, it could become their family heirloom. And the story would be, it came from England. These lithographs were really very valuable today. And I actually knew an antique dealer here in Lebanon who taught me a lot about the stone lithographs and how they were very valuable. And I'd actually sold him another one years ago when I bought it back. But this piece I loved because it's a story of a young man who is obviously in love with the woman, and this little sister is irritating her and distracting her because she wants the attention, he wants the attention. Right. So there's a story in that picture, and it's in the title of the piece. And this one, actually, I created the story on this. Oh. When I had my business, I had a computerized mat cutter, so we could do things like cut an oval and a square and have it look absolutely perfect, and brought the two pictures together and created the story of spring through this. The frame looks old, but it's a beautiful Italian frame. It's got museum glass on it. And so when people purchase this piece, they're actually just purchasing the framing and the archival product, but they have a beautiful vintage print in here that, once again, there's no reason, if it's taken care of, that it could last for generations.
Now, do people, I would guess that the average consumer may or may not know how to take care. I mean, the person who is very artistic and knows how to care for all of these framed and matted pieces is one thing. What about folks that say, I love it, but I'm not sure if I know, is it too nice for me to take care of?
There's never anything that's too nice for anybody.
Okay.
Anybody who can buy a $60,000 SUV
There you go.
can buy a, let's say a $500 print piece that's beautifully framed. How to take care of it? You hang it on the wall. You dust it periodically. Once a year, you might take it down and clean the glass if it's getting, dirty.
Right.
And then the other, I always used to tell people this when they were picking up their framing. I said, this will last you for years. There's only a couple of things that can ruin a piece. A bad move, where the movers have broken the glass. A fire, which eliminates it, or flood.
Okay.
So if you hang something on the wall, and you occasionally run your duster across the top and the bottom, that's all you have to do, and sit back and enjoy that lovely piece. And so for people who maybe want to have a beautiful piece, but don't want to buy the custom framing or it's not their taste, I created an inventory of things ready to go.
Okay.
So they're all these are 11 by 14 of these lovely pieces, and each one telling a story, and they have the title at the bottom of them. And then the other thing I do is I put the information on the back. Lovely. So you know what the history is of it, where it comes from. And so, how many times have we sat feeling that feeling our own selves of, meditating or praying, that we feel that feeling. So it's sometimes I think these pictures can relate to your own personal feelings. And if you gravitate to it, you're going to enjoy it.
I love the fashion as well.
Yes, so do I.
I take lifelong learning classes through Miami University, and we have this wonderful presenter who always, she works with the Hamilton and Butler County Museum, and she knows so much. I mean, well, that was her background, was in fashion and design and so forth.
Well,
so
and here's a great
that.
example. I mean, women used to ride side saddle in corsets, and people say, "Oh, well, I can't do this and I can't do that." Get up on a horse and ride side saddle on a with a corset on, and look at them just as casually chit-chatting like they're sitting having coffee at Starbucks or something.
Right.
So I too love the fashion. I used to do vintage dance with the Flying Cloud Academy of Vintage Dance, and we were always dressing up for different events, different costumes, different time periods. So I have to say, it was a time when women really wanted to look very beautiful, and they sacrificed a lot for it. So a lot of these come from the Girls' Own paper. So this was a magazine that was popular in probably from the 1870s up to, not sure when, but this was a whole book I managed to buy when I was in Britain with all of these lovely images in it. Actually, I think like a Goodwill shop almost, and I just instantly recognized that this was a find. And so to create them, now getting them out of that old book, putting them in a way that they will keep for years to come. And we have a huge selection. I have even more at home when they're gone. The other thing I have here, and I only ever got around to making one of these ready to go, but I have a whole section of them. I don't know if you're familiar with the Bayeux tapestry, which was done during the time of King Harold, I believe. The women made a tapestry of the event. So obviously there were no moving pictures, there were no photographs in those days. So the story was told on a tapestry, and it's, I believe, in France somewhere. So I found these basically wasn't the whole tapestry. So I researched them. Once again, I have the information on the back. So I want to get more of these out and ready to go. But they depict that, and these date back to 1830, I think. So they're old. These are really, they're pretty.
Well, the handwork. I mean,
So and they would be all
the
hand
tapestry.
watercolored.
Right.
So they would have been done. Obviously, there wasn't any way of photographing those in those days. So this is before photography. So this would have been a way to tell people and give people that history in a book form. I bought these, as single sheets, but I can't remember really where I bought them. I just recognized right away, oh, this is a treasure.
Right.
Let's snap it up.
Right.
I'm a picture framer. I can keep this beautiful thing.
I love the way as you're shopping, you probably are not idly shopping. You're shopping with purpose. I mean, you're always thinking about how you could use something. So do you focus on, like sort of certain types of shops where you will go looking for treasures? So
I had quite a lot of things already. And what was happening was, because I kept acquiring things and people also kept giving me things, that I ended up with a lot of really beautiful things that I wasn't always fully using. So I always tried to use everything I had that was beautiful, hang it. But it was getting to the point where I was acquiring more and more stuff. And also, it's a bit like a mechanic. You keep thinking, oh, I'll fix that car up later. And you don't do it. So I ended up with all these beautiful pieces that I had bought, and then I wasn't doing anything with them. So it was an opportunity to take my skill as a picture framer, as an archivist, and to rehouse them and make them available for everybody to buy, or those people that come here to buy, rather. It was just a great opportunity to sort of get all this beauty back out there again. How many times are people sitting on things squirreled away? And what happens when people die, a lot of families, they can't look at everything. So they get the junk people to come through, they take everything out, and they don't realize they're throwing, as they call the baby out with the bathwater. So they're losing these lovely things. And it's kind of sad in a way. And we're seeing less antiques to buy. So I'm having to go to places where I can find those unique things that I believe people will want. And of course, I have no idea what people will want until you're like, oh my goodness,
right,
I sold that book. I couldn't believe I sold that book.
Well, you're talking about framing and matting and so on and so forth, but you have lovely pieces of furniture and other glassware items and that kind of thing. Let's take a minute and shift over to some of the furniture that you have here. And we'll be back in a minute when we're focused on furniture. Now we're here looking at some fabulous pieces of furniture, which actually I have to say I'm drawn to furniture. I love wood, I love marble, I love glass, and it just so happens, and I love silver. So we're in this part of the booth now, and I know there are many stories that go with these pieces.
So yes, so this piece here, which I had in my bedroom, and what happened in trying to find furniture to put in here, I ended up finding a tall boy. And the tall boy was so big, I didn't think it really fit in here. And it also wasn't very old. So it had a old look, but it wasn't an old piece. So my feeling was, oh, I can use that as a chest of drawers at home. And now I can get this piece back in. And I bought this up in Indianapolis at an antique shop. And I really felt at the time it was a total find. It's a very nice piece. It's totally practical. You can use it as a sideboard in a dining room. You can use it as a dressing table in a bedroom, put a mirror above it. We actually even have lovely mirrors here for going above anything. And once again, that's my framing, using that for the mirrors. But so I love nice pieces of furniture. My biggest issue here is that the booth is small, and that maybe, over time there's an opportunity to get a bigger booth and put better furniture. I actually just bought a lovely table and I've got it at home, but I actually have to sell a piece of furniture before I can put another piece in.
Okay.
I found this rocking chair, which has kind of got this 50s look. So one of the things with anything that's got upholstery on it, I make sure, and I even have like a little thing saying it's been sterilized.
Okay.
But I also go back in and I clean everything. So if you buy a piece of furniture that has upholstery from me, it's not going to smell musty and dirty. It's going to be fresh, and it's going to be, like a really nice piece. And if I can, I like the authentic fabric on it.
Mm-hmm.
So to find a piece that has the original fabric, and then, there's a lot of younger people who are really liking things from the 50s. So that falls into that category. Although, like I said, personally, I love things that are older than I am. So
I know. I was just going to say, oh, things from the 50s. That sounds like things we grew up with.
That's right. That's right.
But
if you're
today's
18,
young people, right?
Or if you're 25,
right,
and you want to have like a little sort of 50s feel to something.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody just told me they stayed at an Airbnb that was filled with all 50s stuff, and it was the greatest experience they had.
Oh, there you
the
go.
original 50s stove and everything. So if people want to create that look in their house. So if I find a treasure that I think will be good to sell, I'm going to put it in this booth.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to make sure, like this little chair here that has the needle point in there,
right,
that it's clean and it's beautiful, and to make a very nice little piece to have it in, to fill a corner in a bedroom, throw your clothes on, whatever. Then I went to York, Pennsylvania. And my sister, who loves, I have a half sister who lives up there, and she goes to a lot of auctions. And they have the old school auction, the auctioneer up there, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This piece came up, and it was beautiful. And actually I bought a clock, it's already sold from there. So this is a gorgeous piece. Back in the old days when people didn't have running water, they had to wash their faces and with a beautiful wash stand like this.
Right.
And it's in such great condition. And it's, and to find a treasure like that and available to sell it at the price I have it at, I think is amazing.
Well, the marble top, I do have a marble top table that came from my grandparents. And I do have to say that whenever I look at that, I always think of my grandparents. And then I have pictures of all the, family from back to when my grandparents were young and so on. And, but I had never seen one with kind of a backsplash. It's a very fancy marble back to the tabletop, but that's because it was a sink.
And it has, a lovely little drawer in here.
Right.
Which we've cleaned out, and a little cupboard space here, which I'm storing some stuff in. So yeah, and it's like ready to go. And we bought it all the way down from Pennsylvania, and this marble top comes off, which is good because you'd never be able to pick it up.
Right. Right.
And so it comes off in 2 separate pieces, and there are no cracks or anything as far as I was I pretty much examine everything and make sure is in as perfect condition as possible. If there's anything wrong with it, I'm going to put it on the little ticket so you know exactly what you're buying, and that it's always hopefully in the best condition. Even this funny little thing, we found this, a little shoe brush and a shoehorn. I mean, what a lovely little piece of nonsense,
right?
For a man who, brushing off the mud off his shoes and putting the shoehorn on there. I mean, I don't think there's a modern day version of this.
I don't think there is either. I'm pretty sure there isn't.
Yeah.
You did talk about the china cabinet behind you.
So I bought the china cabinet actually just to secure the products that are in here. This is where all the treasures are, including a lovely set of older books. I keep a list on the back here of what the books are so that they don't get manhandled by people. And I have information on every single book. I made sure that the value of them was correct. Some of these books do come from England. I've got The Tale of Two Cities in here.
Oh.
And Dickens, did he not stay?
At the Golden Lamp.
Yes, so I have that. The first item I sold in my booth was Grapes of Wrath.
Oh, Really?
I had one book in here. That's all I had in here. Somebody came over and snapped it up right away. It could have bowled me over.
Huh,
I was so amazed.
Interesting.
So people love old books. They all have, I checked the values of everything, checked the conditions of everything. The other thing is, in some of the books, I leave a treasure in there too.
Oh.
So if they came with a treasure, you get the treasure.
Oh, nice. Well, that's a little mystery.
Yeah. So
that goes along with it as well.
Yeah, and then here, these are all, nearly everything in here is English. With the exception, I think, of one thing, I've even got a mug of the Queen down here.
I noticed that.
Picked that up on one of my trips. These beautiful little serving forks with either mother of pearl or ivory. As we know, ivory is a big no-no now. So these obviously date back to the days when it was okay to have ivory. Little fish knives and forks. And so they make fun little serving things if you really want to put on a lovely table. And once again, when I do Thanksgiving or Christmas, I love to do what I call the Downton Abbey table with all of the beautiful treasures that one has. And so if you don't have treasures, you can buy them here.
There you go. There you go. A little treasure hunting.
Yeah.
So, well, I noticed you have a doll. You also happen to collect dolls as well.
Well, I found dolls. I actually found out that these dolls aren't very valuable anymore.
Really?
So, but they still look really fun, so then they're really well priced, but I love those old China face dolls. We grew up with them. These were probably more from the 80s when they became collectors again.
Okay.
But I just love the look at them, as an accent piece to
Right.
just really make all of this look, just a little more interesting. And so even things like the candlesticks I found, I put candles in there. So if you buy them, you actually have the candles ready to go.
There you go. There you go. And you said the little pitcher in the middle was kind of a find.
Oh yes, the coffee pots. I found out that so I'm learning. I thought I knew a lot about history. So I'm learning a lot more about American history, in as much that things like these chocolate pots come from Germany, and they're very, very popular. I also bought that at the auction up in York. So I'm not sure, I know that people do have them throughout the booths here. I mean, the whole place is filled with treasures for people. And what a great day out to come here and come home with a treasure, and also look at all of these great treasures that are here. So, and everything is so well presented here. All of the booths here have beautiful, that's why I wanted to be here, because it's really is great.
Well, I mean, that speaks volumes about Broadway Antiques.
Yes.
The fact that you could have chosen anywhere.
Yes.
And with your background, you chose this particular
we went on
location.
We went on some travel. So when I go anywhere, I'd like to go to an antique booth. I always think, well, I might find something that I can bring back here. But usually what I've found is I'm not finding anything. The things are not as good as the things that are here, right here. And because the people who are here have the booths, they're all experts. They've been in it for years. And like the one man said, I've been doing this for 14 years. So it's great for me, who's new doing this. I've got the wisdom of the people who do this. I've got my own eye, my designer eye. I've got my look that I want, the old English look. I've got that whenever. And even if it's an American piece, I want it to have what I call the old English look if possible. But I also like to find beautiful things like, just these lovely glasses. They're all hand etched. And, so it's, so much nicer to drink wine out of a beautiful, delicate glass than out of a big, heavy, clunky thing. The wine actually tastes better.
There you go. There you go. Have you visited the Warren County Museum?
I haven't yet. No, I haven't.
Oh my goodness.
Yet.
As you're talking, 2 months ago, I interviewed Michael Coyen, who's the director at the museum, the Warren County Museum. And you two should get together because he has wonderful art pieces
Oh, I'd
there,
love
and
to meet
just
him, yeah.
quite an array. So we'll have to.
Yes,
we'll
I
have to
think
make
I
that
think there's a
happen.
lot of times I've come up here and there've been major thunderstorms. So I've been
Oh.
like screaming home in the thunderstorms. So it's been a bit of an adventure really coming up here. But I love coming up here. I used to run a custom picture framing place in Mason for years. So I worked with antique dealers here in the past doing picture framing. So that was my connection to Lebanon.
Okay.
And also knowing that Lebanon had this wonderful, rich history. We framed maps and stuff showing the earliest maps of Warren County.
Right.
And
Right.
so I got an education in this area from having run a place for 9 years in Mason, and then became a sales rep, and so was in the field for a long time doing that. But my trips back to England and buying the treasures there, so I'm combining my American story with my English story, and
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you for taking time out in preparation for your travels, and I wish you safe travels.
Thank you.
And if you purchase things while you're, do you have them shipped back here then
I'm
separately?
hoping I can bring everything back physically, because that way I have
Okay.
control with it.
Okay.
So especially, I'm really looking for some paintings. I
Okay.
really want to add to the painting part of this.
Okay.
I have some paintings that I could put here, but I really like what I've got, so
Right.
I'm not really ready to move them on, but I'm hoping I can find, using my eye for knowing what's good art and fine art. So, and also I want to find it in a price point that's doable for most people.
Alrighty.
That's really important. I want people to have nice things, and a lot of people say people don't have money. Well, I truly believe most people do. And everybody buys what they want, and everybody buys what they love. So I work from a different premise of believing that people who want lovely things are very much willing to pay for that and have that. So it is my ethical part of giving the very best that I can. And if I find something and it's not the best, I'm going to work on it to make it the best version it can be. And that's very important to me, that things, people get what they pay for. And that's so I really make that my major goal in anything that I've ever done, in all of my past as well.
Well, this has been such a charming segment for me as an interviewer. I mentioned to Linda, I said, I will just ask a few questions and let you tell the stories. And you have done a wonderful job in doing that. And I hope that our audience at home is taking note of all the shops that are located here in Lebanon, throughout Warren County, throughout Southwest Ohio, in our museums, because very often I think people get used to walking by the shops, but maybe you haven't taken time to walk into the shops, because I very often think, oh my goodness, all of this is here, and we need to discover what's right here in our own community, don't we?
Oh, absolutely. And the other thing is you think of this time when we're shopping online. So sometimes I'm researching stuff, and I want to make sure that when I sell something, it's the right price. Right. Well, I don't know about you, but when I look at this online, I really cannot see what it is.
Right.
And there's a lot of things there that are just, they're chrome. They're not silver plate. So this is silver plate with beautiful, and you can feel the weight of it. It's on a really good piece of brass or metal, whatever it's on there. It's really, like, to me, you cannot buy something like this without seeing it, feeling it, touching it if possible. And you get to experience that, what you're really buying. And so it's about quality.
Yes.
And that's something we've lost in our society. And when it says China on it, I want it to be made out of China, not made in China, unless, of course, it's a Ming vase. So
there you go. There you go. Well, I'm sure that Linda will be happy to help you. In addition to all the other proprietors here
yes.
in the Broadway Antique Mall. And I hope that you took notes and will plan a visit. It's a very hot day today, but we were able to park in a perfect parking spot, and it's very cool inside the mall. So this is a lovely way to spend the day. We hope that you're feeling good, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon. Bye for now.